So I have been known in my earlier years to be somewhat of a daredevil, just slight daredevil in me. But recently I did something that was a current experience. And I walked with one of those jetpacks, you know, those jetpacks that you've seen them probably in the lakes where someone flies up out of the water. I walked with one of those jetpacks off a building. So some of the things I've done in the past, you know, I have gone night scuba diving. I saw a 30-meter whale shark. I have bungee jumped into a canyon with a river below. At the time, it was the highest land bungee in the world in New Zealand. I have gotten into a bit of water and taken a swim and I think I have blocked it out because I don't want to deal with the fact that I actually saw the crocodile before we got in the water. But in Australia, there was a croc in the water. In my mind, we saw the croc after we got out of the water, but I'm pretty sure they said, it won't hurt ya. And we went in anyway. That I would not do. I've gone skydiving, 10,000 feet, rocking on the edge of that little plane, right? And you go, is my body gonna let me do it? Like when you're right here and you're like, and you know, and they're counting 1, 2, and you think, I really can't do this. But you do it. I've done that. When I did the bungee jumping, a funny thing happened. When I jumped, when I go into the water, like a lake, I plug my nose if I jump far. I'm a nose plugger. Anyone else, nose pluggers? And what happened was, you know, this bungee, it lands above the water, like far above the water, and then they lower you down into a boat that comes. So there's no way you're gonna touch the water. But guess what happened when I took my leap with the bungee and I jumped off? Guess what I did? I didn't only just actually do that, I remember now vividly. I also covered my head for impact. Now you tell me whether or not plugging my nose, jumping off the highest land bungee in the world at the time, was going to make a difference if I actually did touch that water. And you tell me whether or not protecting my head with my arm and elbow could make a difference. Not likely. Not likely to make a difference. But I did this other adventure recently, and it was a little hard. It was a little hard to get myself to do it. Why was it different? Why was it different? You're a mom. Why else might it be different? I'm older, significantly. It was different, but it wasn't because I'm a mom, and it wasn't because I'm older. It was different because all of the other experiences were real life. This one was in the community center with virtual goggles. Have you heard of this? This virtual world where you can put on goggles and it will create a scenario around you like you are in a skyscraper, you're on a top floor of a building, and you can just see the edge. Now, clearly, you're in a safe space. You have a little border around you, right? And clearly, if you put your foot here, there is going to be a floor, period, right? Tap it, there's a floor. Another difference in this experience was that it was actually safe. There was no real risk. Whereas in the other experiences, bungee accidents happen, skydiving accidents happen. Crocodiles do bite people. They're not pets. So this experience was, for the most part, right, totally safe. But still, it brought up a level of anxiety and a level of angst. Still, it took me some mental work and some mental preparation. And my friend who showed it to me, another minister, said that he has not yet gotten himself to walk off the plank. He's been working it, but he has not yet been able to take the plunge and use the little jetpacks and start flying. I was determined to do it, but I'll tell you, I did wonder if it was possible to have a heart attack even though nothing's happening. And I think it probably is, right? Anyone ever had an anxiety attack, a panic attack, right? What is imagined can feel just as real as what is perceived to be real. How often do we hold ourselves back in life, in living, when there is no real risk? Because of a virtual threat, because of a possibility of something going wrong, because of a fear or an illusion. How often do we hold ourselves back when there is no real risk, when in fact what is waiting for us on the other side of what we perceive to be the risk is an incredible good, great good, divine good? What virtual barriers do you live behind? Whether they're real or imagined, what do you live behind as far as a border, a boundary, a limit? What stories do we tell ourselves? What stories do we make up about life, about our lives, about others? What limits us as far as what's appropriate? And being appropriate, there's a lot of stuff I wouldn't say from this stage, right? Well, you'd have to know me. But how do we limit ourselves because of what's appropriate? What people will think, what people will say. Has anyone ever been uncomfortable putting on a mask in front of people that are not wearing one? Has anyone been uncomfortable taking off a mask when others are wearing them? Has anyone been uncomfortable sharing whether they're vaxxed or not vaxxed? Right? We are having these great opportunities just to notice what we're feeling inside, going like, oh, I'm this age and something's happening. I'm actually thinking or feeling what I'm feeling about what other people think or feel. There are great opportunities in this day, in this time. Amazing opportunities for spiritual growth and spiritual practice. What do we hold ourselves back from because we're uncomfortable or we feel awkward? Because we're too old or because we're too young? Because we can't do it because we don't have enough money, time, support, freedom, experience, vision. You fill in the blank. We often want to live, but we don't want to live outside of our comfort zone. We're often waiting to feel safe, waiting to feel like something's easy, comfortable to do it. But can we get comfortable with discomfort so that we can truly live? Because there are two kinds of lives. There are the lives that we just live because we are live, and then there is feeling alive. And there is a vast difference between the two. I remember when I used to do open mic nights and it was new to me, I would be so nervous for the first two songs. You got 3 songs, you only got 3 songs, and I would be so nervous for the first 2 songs, just a little kind of nervous, and I would just hide behind the guitar and hide behind my voice. But by the 3rd song, I felt comfortable. I was belting it out. I was singing no matter how bad it was. I was playing even if my fingers were fumbling, and I was having fun. I was having fun, and the difference between having fun while you're playing and just playing, right? It's huge. It's huge. And so I learned, play like you're in the 3rd song. Start with the 3rd song. Because otherwise, it's just wasted time. But the human condition is one in which we're always trying to figure out how to be safe, how to be comfortable. It took a while in my little virtual experience before I became a Skywalker. I was determined to really, really live it up and fly, because, we don't get to fly. I've always wanted to fly like a bird. How many songs have I written that have that line, fly like a bird? And here was my opportunity to fly like a bird and to see what it feels like in the way that, I'm actually safe, but my body feels it. My body feels like this is happening, like I'm looking over the ground, and there was a hot air balloon, and I was so determined to catch it. I was just going towards that hot air balloon. It kept flying away from me, but I kept going towards it. I would dive down, look over the gardens, fly over here, fly over there. And then eventually I got to the place of such comfort that I was like, I want to lay down. I want to lay down so I'm actually flying. And I actually got on what was the ground, on my stomach, in the middle of the community center with big goggles on, and flew with my legs behind me. And it felt amazing. But often we don't start with the third song first in life. We wait. There is a beloved that I know whose mother was entering hospice. Her mother was 85, and her mother didn't want to go out or lift off quietly. Her mother wanted to be bold. Her mother, who was once afraid of swimming, had a fear of swimming, was now experiencing a state of consciousness where she had a fear of nothing. So she wanted to go to London and take that trip that she always wanted to do. She wanted to skydive, and in fact, she took her teeth out, handed them to her daughter, and was like, let's do this, baby, and got up on that plane and jumped right out of it. She decided to just dive in with the time that she had left. She shot pool. She played. She had adventures. So many of us are derailed because we're looking for safety and security. We're taken off the path of living what it feels like to be living because of fears. And I would bet, wouldn't you bet, that 99% of the things that you're afraid of are illusions anyway? And if they're not illusions, they really don't matter, right? Should you really be making decisions about your life based on what other people think you should be doing? No. So most of what comes up that limits us is irrelevant. Or maybe it's kind of relevant, but if we would break through it, we would recognize it still wasn't something that was worthy of holding us back. It still wasn't something that was worthy of holding us back, and it was worth it. So what are we waiting for? If we've learned anything from the past few years, and you fill in the blanks of how many years this is for you, but at least the last year and a half, maybe the last 4, 5, 6, you decide. If we've learned anything, it's that this is life right now. This is my life, and this is the time to live it. No one is guaranteed tomorrow. No one ever is guaranteed tomorrow. So what do we want to do with this life right now, knowing that there's no time to waste, and knowing that some of our thoughts, some of our boundaries, our limits, our fears, some of them are real, but some of them are imagined. The good news is it's irrelevant. Our brain reacts the same way, so you can treat them all the same with mindfulness. With mindfulness. This is not about carelessness. It's not about recklessness. It's not about walking off of skyscrapers. It's realizing the activity of the mind, and that we're often in virtual danger. This is about being clear and being courageous. It's about feeling the fear but living anyway and caring less about it. It's about feeling discomfort and minding it less, being mindless about the discomforts because we are mindful. It takes boldness. It takes guts. You know, something beautiful is happening right now, and I am sure at some point in time in the future they're going to call it a great renaissance. Not a renaissance of art and literature, but a renaissance of courage and vision and integrity and alignment. You know how on a tree, if you cut a tree sideways, you cut a little piece off, you can see in the rings, and based on the rings, you can find out what it was like this year. You can find out if there were fires and dangers or drought. You can find out if there was a lot of nutrients and nutrition and it was a good year. You can find out the stresses. So too are we having an experience that is deep in our makeup. It has shaken the foundation of our feelings of security and safety. I don't think that there's a person on the planet that hasn't been a little discouraged by what they've seen, right? By what they've experienced, by what's out there and what's in here. I don't think that there's a person that hasn't wondered, how safe am I on the planet? How safe am I with these people? Everybody is so interesting. I use the word interesting. We're all so interesting. We're so interesting. When we have that kind of pressure, when we have that kind of discomfort, something happens. We begin to realize places and spaces in our lives and in our world and in our beings where we are not in alignment. And whether we're pushed by discomfort or pulled by a vision, we begin to unravel or unwind what is not working. And a whole new realm of opportunities and possibilities appear to us and are in the mix as a possibility that we may have otherwise stepped away from because it wasn't comfortable. It didn't feel safe enough. But when we're living on the edge, when we're living in interesting times, we have a field of power available to us if we want it. We can either continue to get more stuck, frozen, limited, or we can realize that the risk we thought was a risk is not much of a risk at all, that it's a risk worth taking. I define risk as releasing insecurity for spiritual knowing. Releasing insecurity for spiritual knowing. It's bold, it takes guts. So whether it's shifting a relationship, whether it's leaving a job, rearranging your life, moving your home, you hear and you see that something is happening right now, right? You see that. Something is happening, something beautiful is happening because people are stepping into alignment with their heart's desire, stepping into alignment with their vision, with their good. We can't wait until we have enough. Well, we can, but we don't have to. Because there is a field of potential. There is a power available to us that will lift us like that jetpack when we follow our spiritual knowing. Newsflash, safety does not come from having enough. The feeling of safety does not come from having enough. It comes from having faith. When the ego or the separate sense, the mind, tells us we need to have enough before XYZ, before I live the moments that I want to live, before I surround myself with the people I want to surround myself, before I step into what I want to step into, if I wait, I will be always waiting. Because it's an illusion, it's just a circuit, it's a hamster wheel. The mind will keep finding something that's an obstacle because that's what the mind does. The mind says, don't change, stay safe. Whether it's your internal growth and healing work or whether it's external. The mind is always telling us that we need something else, something more to move ahead, to move forward. for our vision to be okay. That this moment is not enough, or there's not enough in this moment. I had a friend that I was sure that if I didn't kind of give her a little nudge or a little hand holding, she would stay in the state that we grew up forever. That she might get stuck there. Because every time we had these little conversations, she would say, well, I got to wait till I get this done with my house and my rent or my job, and I have to have this much saved up to leave and to do this. And we were young, so it was a time you don't have anything saved up anyway. It's like, you're going to have nothing there, you're going to have nothing here. Go where you want to go. You don't have a job there, you don't have a job here. Go where you want to go. And she did. And I know her life has been changed because she took that leap and she did it. But the mind kept finding reasons. Give me another 6 months. Give me another 3 months. Give me another 2 months. I can't do it yet. I got to wait until this. I have a friend that's an incredible musician, an insanely incredible musician. And I remember always asking him, why don't you record this stuff? I've got to practice more when I get good enough. And I was like, good enough for who? Good enough for what? Have you seen some of the music out there? You don't have to have talent to record music. You don't. You got to have the spirit. You got to love it. You got to enjoy it. But if you keep telling yourself that you're not good enough yet, you're going to be on your third song. And then it's going to be over. We have 2 lives. The one we're living and the one when we feel alive. In the future, this will be known as a great time of change, a renaissance of the emerging visions and values we have as individuals and as a collective. What will we be the space for in that renaissance? This isn't about walking into the Delta virus and going, I did it and I'm still fine. It's not about driving a car without a car seat belt or a car seat. It's not about surviving things that are not good for us. But it may be about getting out of something that's not working for us anymore. It may be about listening to something we've been hearing, but we've been afraid to take action on. It may be about forgiving someone that needs to be forgiven. It may be about healing something that's ready to be healed. Taking the risks of vulnerability, taking the risk to connect, taking the risk to deepen and develop relationships, taking the risks to resolve issues that need to be resolved. It's about the work of alignment, aligning ourselves with our lives, our true lives, our living, our hearts, our vision, our values. It's about integrity. It's about being honest with ourselves, being whole and undivided, moving through our boundaries into our boldness, bringing heaven a little closer to earth. So what are we waiting for? What are you waiting for? No one can answer this for us. It takes the deep dive. We are Skywalkers. Namaste.